Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right into this, because today we are unpacking a seriously profound philosophical text by the prominent Arab thinker Ali Mohammed Al-Shurafa Al-Hammadi. The book is called The Book of Allah Revealed, the Best of Speech, and what makes this text so incredibly fascinating is honestly just the sheer scale of its ambition. We're not just talking about abstract theological musings here. It actually proposes a highly structured, radical solution to some of the most complex, deep-rooted issues of division facing the Muslim world today. So, if you've ever wondered how a foundational text can be looked at in a totally new light to solve modern crises, well, this is a roadmap you're absolutely going to want to hear about.
Right off the bat, the author hits us with this massive, provocative question. How can the Ummah, the global Muslim community, solve its current crises? We're looking at a world where division, wildly differing interpretations, and long historical conflicts can sometimes completely overshadow unity. And remember, the Ummah isn't just one single group. It is a vast, incredibly diverse, global population spanning completely different cultures, languages, and realities. Al-Shurafa's entire book is a deep dive into answering this exact question for that specific, diverse population. He's not looking for some quick political fix. He's asking a deeply foundational question. Where does a society find its ultimate anchor when literally everything else seems to be pulling it apart?
To tackle a question that huge, we have to start at the beginning. Section 1, an intellectual vision of the Quran. Okay, so what exactly does the author mean by the best speech? Well, according to Al-Shurafa, this is a direct reference to the Quran itself. And I want you to notice the specific words he uses to describe it here: absolute, self-sufficient, and completed. The author argues that this divine source is entirely whole, just on its own. It's a vision that says the original text needs absolutely zero external additions to function as the ultimate guide for, well, everything, both spiritual direction and practical legislation. Think about that for a second. That is a massive paradigm shift. It's a bold call to strip away centuries of layered interpretations and accumulated historical commentary and just return to a singular, unblemished starting point. For Al-Shurafa, it means the principles we need to navigate today's super complex world are already right there in the text. We don't need to invent new frameworks. We just need to clear away the historical clutter. And that brings us to a really fascinating point of tension in his work. Section 2, the best speech and human sources. This is where we see the absolute fundamental clash that drives the whole book. On one hand, you have the pure divine source. In the author's framework, this source is inherently unifying, it's objective, and it's totally complete. But then, contrast that with the other side, human narratives. The author points out that throughout history, human interpretations and personal narratives have been heavily added to the religious framework. And because they're human, he argues they are naturally prone to distortion. It's kind of like a centuries-long game of telephone, right? As narratives get passed down, shaped by politics, cultural biases, and just plain human error, they morph. What started as pure guidance gets tangled up with personal agendas. Al-Shurafa basically says that the modern crises of the Ummah stem directly from elevating these flawed human narratives to the exact same level as the pure divine source. When human opinions are treated like infallible law, it naturally leads to fanaticism, because everyone ends up fiercely defending their specific version of history rather than the shared original source. Which takes us right into our next major pillar, Section 3. The comprehensive divine constitution. So if the text is perfectly pure and complete, like the author passionately argues, what is its actual job in everyday society? Well, his answer is crystal clear. It's not just a spiritual guide, it is a comprehensive divine constitution. Now let's break that down because the distinction is absolutely crucial. A spiritual guide is internal, right? It manages your personal morality, your private relationship with the divine. But when we hear the word constitution, we're talking about an entirely different ballgame. A constitution is external. It's a binding, structural document that organizes a state and establishes the bedrock laws of human interaction. That is exactly the framework Al-Shurafa is applying. He's making the case that this source material was actively designed to organize human life on a macro scale. It moves the text out of just the realm of private faith and right into the realm of public organizational architecture. Every constitution needs foundational rules, and according to this text, the divine constitution rests on 3 indispensable pillars: justice, mercy, and peace. What's deeply compelling here is how these 3 specific values act as direct antidotes to the crises we were just talking about. Let's take them one by one. First up, justice. Where human narratives might lead to prejudice, a strict adherence to justice demands fairness and the total eradication of systemic corruption. It is the ultimate cure for fanaticism. Second, mercy. In a world that is so often fragmented by harsh judgments, mercy requires empathy and a fundamental respect for human dignity. It actively cures division by softening the hard edges of society. And finally, peace. Now, peace here isn't just the absence of war. It is the ultimate goal of a well-ordered society. It's the natural byproduct when you successfully implement justice and mercy. The author argues that if a society is truly using the best speech as its working constitution, these three pillars are basically guaranteed to emerge.
All of this builds up to the ultimate goal of the text, Section 4, the message of reform and unity. So here is the author's highly practical, step-by-step roadmap for profound societal transformation. It's a remarkably clear, logical progression. Step 1, it's honestly the hardest. You have to liberate religious thought from those historical constraints we talked about. This is a monumental intellectual task. It requires individuals to critically untangle what is truly divine from what is just cultural tradition. It takes a ton of intellectual courage. But once that happens, society moves to step 2, adhering exclusively to the pure, self-sufficient text. If those two tough conditions are met, step 3 just naturally follows. The ranks of the Ummah are united. Why? Because they aren't arguing over thousands of competing human interpretations anymore. They're finally rallying around one undisputed source. And that brings us to step 4, the ultimate result, building a society firmly rooted in those authentic values. Think about what a society actually looks like when human rights are protected by absolute justice and diverse populations coexist through a baseline of real peace. It's a blueprint that argues true unity doesn't come from shallow political compromise, but from a rigorous return to a pure constitutional baseline.
To wrap things up, I really want to leave you with this standalone quote directly from Al-Shurafa's text. "Freedom is a responsibility before it is a right." What a profound philosophical thought to end on. When the author calls for the liberation of religious thought, he is absolutely advocating for intellectual freedom. But as he argues, that freedom isn't just a free pass to do whatever you want. It's a heavy, solemn responsibility to seek out the truth. It's the responsibility to discard divisive human additions and actually do the hard work of building a society based on justice and mercy. So as you reflect on this author's vision for reform, ask yourself, in any society, how often do we demand the right to freedom without first accepting the heavy responsibility that comes with it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.
مؤسسة رسالة السلام العالمية، رسالة إنسانية لعالم أكثر سلاماً.